Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Level. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball and a TheraBand. Now, if you're at home and you don't have a TheraBand, that's no problem. You can do the same moves without any sort of assistance. As always, if something doesn't feel right for you or your body, don't do it. Opt out, modify, take breaks, whatever you want. Before we get started, we're just going to go over a quick little term because we're going to be doing some shoulder internal and external rotation. So if you're like, I don't know what that means, if you flip your palms forward and then out, and then if they were to keep going, turn backwards, that is shoulder external rotation, right? This is retraction, and then internal rotation is when your hands flip in, back, and then they'd go to the side, okay? And then protraction is here, right? So we're actually just gonna start with some shoulder blade isolations. Your shoulders will move, but we're gonna try to squeeze the shoulder blades, okay? So think about just finding your shoulder blades on the back of your rib cage, and think about drawing them down and then together. Then they can lift, come around your rib cage and down. And then down, together, lift up, around the rib cage and down. You can have your hands on your legs or dangling. If you start to feel discomfort in your neck, don't go into the range that feels bad. And just notice if your neck starts responding, right? So sometimes if we have weak neck cervical flexors, when we squeeze our shoulder blades together, our head wants to come forward. So if you start to notice that, see if you can gently tuck your chin. And then we're going to allow our shoulder blades to go the other way. So back. And I want you just to get a sense of their placement on the back of your rib cage. We have two more. Now your arm bone is connected to your shoulder blade. And depending on what your arm is doing, your shoulder blade should respond. So now, all we're gonna do is one arm at a time. We're externally rotating it, so palm to the sky, sweep it across your body. Bring it up into the biggest range of motion you have. And as you take it back, start to flip your palm back, coming into internal rotation, and it can come behind you. And then take it back, up, and around. Now, I have really short arms, like really short, so there's no way I'm gonna touch the ground. If you're like, man, I can't get my arm off the ground, you can always come up onto your knees if that feels better. We're just trying to find a little bit of looseness in that shoulder joint. Good. Couple more. And last one. And then we get to do the other side. And if it starts to feel a little crunchy, just breathe, right? If it feels painful, don't do it. Glad we had this talk, you guys. Get up and around. So we're going into as full circumduction as we can with that external and internal range of motion. Once again, if it feels pinchy, avoid that. So for example, on this side, that felt fine. On this, but this direction, when I flip, if my arm is up too high, I have to really focus on the arm bone rotating, or I feel a pinch, right? So if I do it from a lower position, I don't get the same pinch. Last one. We're going to end with that external rotation. Nice. Go ahead, grab your band. Bring it out in front of you. And I like to kind of wrap my hands in it a little bit. Shoulder blades are going to reach forward, coming around your ribs, so your fingertips point forward, and then slide your shoulder blades back. Good. Now with your shoulder blades back, make sure you're not arching, right? It's more like we're widening through our collarbones as if we're trying to take off a big jacket. Exhale, start to take your arms out to the side. Now, if you can't get very far, guess what? That's okay. Maybe you need less tension on the band, right? Yeah, so now feel your shoulder blades start to come towards each other, right? And we're trying to do this without force, just a little bit of activity. Good. 3 more. Beautiful. 2. And on the way in, let your shoulders melt out of your ears. Yeah. And then we can bring our arms up. Just into a range that feels good. If you're internally rotated, think about scooping your shoulders. Now, we're going to draw the shoulder blades down, bend the elbows. Oh, it's like a pull-up. Yes, it is. And then slowly come back. And we could also tighten this up, right? Because we're trying to find a little bit of lat activation and then elongation. So we're hugging the armpits down. Good. Yeah. And I want you to envision just getting that pull up, no assist. You got this. Yeah. Good. Couple more. Think about the shoulder blades drawing around your ribs as well. Good. 2 more. Nice. This should feel relatively easy. Nice job, you guys. We're coming onto our back. So I'm moving this because I've got a couple things to contend with. And we're going to bring the ball in between our knees. We're not quite done with the band. So go ahead and rewrap your hands. Feel your shoulder blades on your back. Feel them on the floor. Now, just think about dragging the elbows down to tap the ground. If you feel your shoulder blade come up and forward, see about tucking it under and letting it settle on the ground. And then slowly let the knuckles come back up. And again. And let the knuckles come back up. Trying to keep the shoulder blades nice and flat and relaxed. So now we're separating out that arm movement from our shoulder blade movement. Almost there, 2 more. Last one, hold it down. Once again, think of widening through your collarbones. And then your upper arm bone is in charge of this movement. It's going to rotate so your hands can start to come back. Maybe your hands get to the floor, maybe they don't. And then bring it back. And if this feels pretty good, you can always bring your hands back down a little bit so you're going into internal rotation. But if once again that shoulder picks up and forward and comes off the ground, temper your range like 5%. If it doesn't feel okay in your shoulders, don't do it. You can always get rid of the weight of the band and just do the movement with the hands themselves. Give me 3 more. And just notice if your ribs try to pop off the ground, right? That's just your body trying to help. Anybody's shoulders starting to get a little bit fatigued or just mine? Yeah. Last one. And you can relax. Take the band off of your hands for now. Don't worry, we'll come back to more. We're actually going to bring our hands to the front of us. So one on your sternum, and one on your low ribs, like right above your belly button. And we're just going to ask our body where we're breathing from. So inhale in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And just start to notice which hand is moving. So is it a bad thing to have your top hand moving? No. Those secondary respiration muscles are needed in order to help us get like a full deep breath However, they tend to need to kick on more when we're in a place of excitement, right? Like a high stress situation, like we're running. But in a low stress environment, in an ideal world, we should be able to relax them and get a nice diaphragmatic breath. Just one more like this. And then bring your hands to your hip bones. On your next exhale, think about pulling your belly button down towards your spine and pulling your hip bones together. And see if you can find that nice deep abdominal connection. And then inhale, relax. And then exhale, think about your ribs and hips all drawing towards your belly button and your belly button sinking down towards the ground. And then inhale. And again. Now, as we breathe and connect, we're going to also layer on a squeeze of the inner thigh. And see if that helps you find a little bit more of that core connection. Two more. On this next one, start the exhale, start the connection, and we're going to layer on movement. So as you exhale, hug it all together, let your lower back sink towards the ground, pulling your hip bones toward your face. You've just imprinted your spine. Rock your hips back to neutral, inhale wide. Exhale, start to hug it all together, imprint your spine. And just start to notice if your hips are trying to do the work, right? Are you gripping through your hip flexors? Are you gripping through your buns? Or are you activating your abdominal muscles to help with that movement? One more like this. And back to center. Now interlace your hands behind your head, spiraling your elbows forward. So I want them in your peripheral vision. On your exhale, we sink the bottom parts of the ribs down, drawing the belly button down, curling your collarbones forward from your armpits. Yeah. And then slowly lengthen back down. Let's do just a couple more like this. We're just seeing where our range is today. If you start to grip through the front of your hips, check out a couple different things. Are you coming up really, really high? Like, are you rotating your hip bones forward? If not, and the hip flexors are just trying to help, think more about squeezing the ball and trying to find your hamstrings ever so slightly. Good. And then also look forward in between your knees to help keep tension out of your neck. Now we get to hold this last one up. If you're on your shoulder blades, bring your hands forward, push them into an imaginary surface, and then bring your hands back behind your head. Now the only thing we're going to do is imprint to neutral. So our upper body stays the same, and we're just rocking our pelvis towards our face and away from our face. Using your breath here. So it's exactly what we just did, right? We're just imprinting and coming to neutral, except we're in a chest lift, right? Now, it's more work to maintain your chest lift when you're in neutral and easier to maintain it when you're in imprint. So my challenge to you is to find that nice, beautiful curl and then try to maintain it. And it's much, much more work, right? Everybody feeling those obliques just a little bit helping? Yeah, two more. Last one. Come back to neutral, head comes down. Bring one hand forward. And as you curl forward, you'll notice that your hand slides forward. And then back down. One more. Hold. Now, imagine that you have a remote that you're trying to reach for. You're gonna reach for it, yeah. And then you're gonna lengthen back through your spine. Now, if you tend to kind of crunch and make this a really small shape, imagine you have a kitten or a puppy curled in that little crease and you don't want to wake them up. Good. And on the way back, think of your spine like a bendy straw that's just being lengthened. Last one, hold, other side. So we're just going to reach and back. And notice if one side feels different than the other. For example, on one side, I can bend up and over, no problem. On the other side, my hip tries to help. So if you notice without judgment, just observation, and then see what you can do to make it 1% more symmetrical. Last set. And hold. Now flip that palm up. Take your other hand. From the rib cage, we're rotating, so you're reaching your hand up and over to high five yourself. Take your hands up and over to the other side. Hold. Top hand comes behind your head, lower back down. Stay there. Come into your chest lift. Hold. Rotate from the rib cage. Up and over. Top hand comes down and bit down. Now, as you do this, notice a couple things. Is your hip coming up or can you keep it down? Right? When you high five yourself, are you trying to rotate just through your shoulders? If you are, you're less likely to be able to get fingertip to fingertip, right? If at any point you're like, I like this, I can feel my obliques, but man, my neck does not. That's okay. You lift, you rotate, and you take that whole hand up and over, then you switch hands, okay? It's an extra step, but it's still fine, okay? Otherwise, we have one more each way. Anybody not finding those obliques a little bit? Okay, that's what I thought. Last one. Up and over, and then come back down. Nice job, you guys. Let your knees start to go to one side a little bit. It's not about a huge range of motion through the spine. So think about that hip sliding away from your face. On your exhale, think about dragging the ribs back and pasting your spine down one bone at a time. Other side. A lot of times, if our abs aren't trying to do the work, our spine or our hips will, right? So if I'm here, I can feel my back, I can feel my hips, but my abs aren't doing the work. So think about hugging your hips back, gently pushing them into the mat. And again. And you can come back to center. Now you can stick with that or bring your arms into a T or goalpost position. Squeeze the ball, lift your heels, float your legs to tabletop. Think about closing your ribs. Keep squeezing your prop. We lift one hip, other hip lowers, hold. Exhale, drag the ribs back. Other side. Inhale, exhale, drag it back. Good. Couple more. Trying not to go past your point of control. Now, does that mean you should always keep it tiny and never explore? No, find your point of control and then go a tiny bit farther to see if you can actually go farther than you think you can. Now, if this feels good, stick with this. If you prefer feet on the floor, keep feet on the floor. If you'd like more challenge, hold, extend your legs, drag them back, bend the knees, up and over, hold, extend if you like, drag it back, bend. Couple more here. And back. We get one more each direction, making sure you're also squeezing your inner thighs a little bit. Last one. And come back to center. Hug your knees in towards your chest and gently rock from side to side. We're going to set the ball to the side for a second. One foot comes to the ground, other leg extends. Now, same side arm as extended leg is going to come overhead as best as you can. If this is where you are, that's okay. We just want the arm out of the way, okay? Other arm comes to the sky, and just let the arm start to come over your body. Reach your fingertips, look at your hands. So notice how you're starting to peel your spine up. Exhale, roll to the side. And then roll it back from the hips first. And again. Now, if this feels good and easy, you can always extend the other leg. And just notice if you can allow your spine to move, or if you're bringing excessive tension into the front of your hips, or if you feel like you have to push down really hard into your heels, right? Two more. And whatever you figure out, whether you're like, oh yeah, I'm really bracing with my hip flexors, or oh yeah, I'm really pushing down. See if you can allow for 5% less. And then we get to do the other side. So whether that other knee is bent or straight is up to you. We're going to start just with letting that arm reach across. Look at the hand, reach it. Start to peel your spine up and then back down. And a lot of times we get so used to moving in one piece that it's hard to separate out. Then of course, if that feels too easy, you can always add on. And just notice how it feels from side to side. Maybe this side is much easier. Maybe this is your harder side. This is my more exciting side. We got two more. Last one. And then come back to center. Go ahead, slide your feet in. Cross one leg over the other as you're coming into a figure four stretch. Now the toe that's pointed, you're going to keep going that direction, letting that hip lift and then look the other way and then back. Just two more like this. We just rotated from the upper body down. Now we're rotating from the lower body up. Come back to center. Now you can always Put the other foot on the ground. Otherwise, we're pushing that foot that's on the ground really into the ground, hinging up into a small bridge. And then roll all the way down. Let's go ahead and press and lift, and then roll. If that feels good, great. If you're like, that's really challenging, bring the other foot down. Making sure that you're not putting all your weight on your neck, you're not feeling tension in your back, but you feel that glute and possibly the hip on the other side. Last one, and hold. And just squeeze that glute. And then the leg that's crossed, we're just going to bring it to your tabletop. If it's appropriate, we're tapping that toe down and exhale, floating it back up. If you're like, well, I can do this, but only if I lower my hips. Okay, tap it down and bring it up. We have two more. How's that glute and hamstring feeling, everybody? Amazing. Yeah. And then bring that foot down. We come all the way down, switch legs. So start with the rotation and just look the other way. Couple more. Trying to let the hip that's on top relax. And two. And last one. Bring it back. Find the foot that's on the floor. Push into the floor. And see if this feels the same or different. And then see if you can roll down, pacing your spine down, one bone at a time. Now that's the visual, right? One bone at a time. However, if we have sticky spots on our spine, or even depending on our proportions, right? I have a long torso and short legs, so I don't have as much space to get that articulation. And with scoliosis, I have some chunks in my spine. So if you have any sort of things going on where you're like, well, I can almost do it, but I have to really tighten up everything. Think more about just melting through the tissue of your back rather than forcing one bone at a time down. On this last one, we hold our hips up. And if it's appropriate, bring your leg to your tabletop, tap it down, exhale, float it back. As we float it back, try to allow that thigh bone to sink in the socket. We have 4, 3, 2 more. Last one. Bring that foot down, roll it on down, extend your legs. Now, as you extended your legs, if your hip bones kind of go forward or your low back came up, see if you can gently and easily find neutral. And if you need to like bend your knees a fraction of an inch, it's fine. Now, before we move, see if you can imprint from here without having to bend your knees. If you can't, bend your knees, see if you can imprint there. We're doing some roll-ups. Allow your arms to come overhead. Inhale, lift. Exhale, roll one bone at a time. Good. Now at the top, reach forward, and then think about somebody you like coming up behind you and hugging you. So we're creating an uppercase C shape, and then curl and roll down. Now, if you have a prop that you need to help these be more successful, great, use it. Sometimes a pad underneath the back or some weights in the hands. Good. Using your breath. Yeah. 2 more. Good. Yes. It's so good. Last one. All the way up. And all the way down, sliding your heels in with you. Go ahead, bring your legs to your tabletop. Now, think about your feet being against a wall. You're going to push your feet into the wall from the back line of your legs. Go ahead, interlace your hands and curl forward. Now, if you're kind of low here, it's okay. Hands behind your thighs. Push into your hands. That will help you lift. Hands behind your head. Now tap one toe down. Exhale. Bring it back up. Other side. As we do this, think about the thigh bone melting. It's like you have a weight on your thigh bone and a helium balloon on your knee. Now, if at any point you need your head down, fantastic. If you need to march instead, fantastic, right? Sometimes I get more out of marching because you can really push into the floor. So if you feel your hip flexors really gripping, march so you can push in, get that glute and hamstring. Now, if this is great and this is where you are, fantastic. If you would like to add on, you're actually going to extend both of your knees and then bring it in. Extend both of your knees. Good. Anybody else sound like the last 5 seconds of popcorn or just me? Yeah. Couple more. Keep curling forward if you can, right? So if you start with your head lowering, take a second and then come back. As you push away, imagine pushing that foot into a wall. Curl a little higher towards me. Yeah. Now, hold. We're going to take our opposite hand. Whether you are tapping or extending, we're taking that opposite hand towards that front leg. We're rotating, but we're going to find force. So pull your armpit down like you're trying to pull the leg across, and then with your glute, push into that hand. And then other side. So I'll show a couple different variations. If you're marching and you need your head down, it's the same thing, okay? No problem. If you're tapping and your head is down, it's the same thing. It's just helping us connect more. And we're holding because it's an isometric contraction. If you're tapping and your head is up, same thing. And if you're extending and your head is up, same thing. 2 more. Last one. Come back to center. We're going to push 1 foot away, rotate towards the other side, and then hold this. Inhale. Exhale, try to roll onto your side. Hold for a second. Do you feel how now that glute medius, Nancy, bring it, yep, yeah, keep rolling, keep rolling. Yeah, so that glute is working. Yeah, now we roll back. And then switch, hold. And then we roll onto our side. And see how the force now is glute, whereas before it was oblique, yeah? Now, if you're marching, same thing, right? Can you use your, like, think about your breath, right? So, or what we did earlier with the ribs, right? It's almost like as you roll, you're pushing your ribs and you're slowing it down. And then on the way back, you're dragging your ribs back, right? So you can push with your foot. If you need to push with your foot, push with your foot. But it's kind of like that combination, right? Of when we rolled like this And then when we lifted that hip and drew it back. So it's still from the obliques and our diaphragmatic breath. Does that make sense? Theoretically? Okay. Last one. And back to center. Hands behind your thighs, press into them, roll up. Nice job, you guys. We're gonna come on to hands and knees. And go ahead and bring the ball with you for a second. Now, this is just for information purposes. We're gonna flatten out one of the sides of the balls. Okay, good, good, great. I just wanted to make sure they weren't all overly inflated. Yours might fall, but that's just because it's a little bit more inflated. We're gonna place it on our low back. Now, once again, this is just for information, right? Because sometimes a little bit of feedback helps us know where we are in space. So for this, if you need easier, knees wider, hands closer together. And we're pressing the floor away. As we exhale, lift one hand, other side. So it's like little kitty cat paws, right? You're making some biscuits. And if your knees wide, hands together, it's like real easy. Bring your knees a little closer, hands a little wider. If that's super easy, try knees together. And if that's super easy, hands apart. One more. Good. Now for this next one, hands apart, knees together is going to be easier. Slide one foot out. Push it so far away that maybe it starts to lift. And then fold it back in. Other side. Now, as we're doing this, if your knees aren't underneath your hips, like if they're pretty far out, it's actually going to be harder work on your back. Okay, so bring the knees a little closer to your face than you think they need to be. And then as you do this, if you're excited for more challenge, bring your hands together a little, knees a little wider, right? That just changes the stability needed. And then of course, if you feel excited about life, you can reach opposite arm and leg. Make sure you hold it, trying not to let the head drop, but keeping those ears nice and aligned. Back and forth just a few times. Yeah. And that just gives us information, right? One more. Good. Last one. Press yourselves into your rest position. You can roll out your wrists. Hands up and over to one side. Push your hips away. And then other side. Now come back to center. We are going to plank. So if you need to plank on your knees, the easiest way to get there, bring your hands forward, lift your ribs, tuck your tailbone, and come forward. Making sure it's not the hips that are diving, but lifting away. If you're in a full plank, same thing. You're just on your feet. Nancy, yep, thank you. And then exhale, and back. Other side. Now, if it sounds like you've laid an egg because the ball drops, it's fine, right? It just tells us what our body is doing, right? So maybe you notice one side feels really stable and the other side wants to drop, right? But maybe you didn't know that before. We have two more. Last one. Knees down. Press yourselves back. Good. We're going to come onto our side and we're going to bring the ball and the band with us. Now, I'm going to bring one foot into the band. Try to make sure it's relatively even and then cross the band. Now, if you try this and you're like, that's too much for me, man, get rid of the band, it's fine. I'm going to use the ball like a pillow and think about while your shoulder is nice and wide, our bicep is going to help us. Okay, so you might notice like, oh, I've got some tension, and then you have to like get rid of some of the tension. That's okay. Roll your top hip bone forward, lift your bottom ribs a little, bring that knee and foot up. Good. Now push the foot into the band to reach it away. Push it so far away that your bottom ribs lift. Yeah. And then bend the knee, allow it to fold. So if you've ever worked on the reformer or the springboard, one of the cool things about it is it offers a little bit of feedback. It offers a little tension for assistance and resistance. Okay. Couple more. Seeing if you can keep that knee and foot on the same plane, right? A lot of times either the knee drops or the foot does. Good. Jita, you can bring your heel back in space just a little bit when you press out. So when you push out, now bring it back in space a little. Yeah, that's where you're going. Do you feel the glute a little bit more? Yeah, good. Good, Ashley. Yeah. Last one. Hold. Now, we're just going to paintbrush that foot up the wall, squeegee it down. So imagine instead of going up to the sky, right, we're actually pushing that foot as far away from us as we can get it, and then back down. Good. And then bring your foot back in space a little bit more for me. Yeah, and then notice how it won't go up quite as high, but the glute is working harder. That's where you're gonna go. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah. Thank you, good. And then keep pushing your foot towards this, yeah. Yeah. Good, and then Shannon, that looks good, but if you roll your top hip bone forward a little, it'll just get a little bit more glute as opposed to TFL, theoretically. Is that more back of the leg a little? Oh, that's okay. Hold this last one up. It's Nancy's favorite, tiny circles. Good. For 5, 4, 3, 2, reverse them. 5. How's that glute feeling? Yeah. 2, 1. Bring it in. Smack that hip out. We're just going to get a couple more rotations. So reach that top arm forward, open the chest, and forward. A lot of times, if we have neck or shoulder issues, sometimes it can come from our rib cage not rotating. Last one. And then we get to do the other side. So however you need to get there is fine. I actually found out something kind of cool, you guys. If you have tight calves and you walk a lot and you're always stretching your calves and you're always stretching them and you're always stretching them and they're always tight, see what your rib cage is like if it rotates. Because if you're walking a lot and your rib cage doesn't rotate, your calves have to do more work to power you. How crazy is that? All right, so we've got the band. We're gonna roll that top hip bone forward, float the knee and foot up. Okay, push it away. Now, once you get here, think about driving that foot so far away that it lifts that bottom rib, and fold it in. Now, a lot of times we tend to go into knee extension without going into hip extension. So what I'd like you to try to do here is to think about coming into the tiniest bit of hip extension before knee extension and see if that helps you access your glute just a little bit faster. Still trying to keep that knee and foot on the same plane. Good. Relax your shoulder a little. Yeah, I would say take the hand and just bring it to the floor so you can use the floor for support. Yeah. Is that a little easier? Okay, good. Okay. Just a few more here. How's that feeling, everybody? Great. Good. For 3. And 2. Good. Hold it out. And then just paintbrush it up a little. Squeegee it down. Paintbrush it up, reaching towards the wall. Behind you a little, Nancy. Roll that top hip bone forward. Yeah. Did you feel how your hip rotated back there? Yeah. So don't go up any higher. There. Yeah. Yeah. Good. And then pushing the foot away. Yeah. Good. And then I want you to roll your top hip bone forward for me. And then heel back slightly. Yeah. Now try. Is that more exciting? Yeah. You're okay, Jetta? You look like it. Yeah. Relax your jaw. See if that helps. Good. Yeah, better. 2 more. Last one, hold tiny circles. For 5, 4, 3, and reverse it. Trying to let that foot dangle a little. 3, 2, 1. Bring that knee in, smack that hip out. We're just going to get a couple rotations. So see where your rib cage wants to go. See where your shoulder blade wants to go. 2 more. Last one. And we get to come onto our stomach. So you can move the band so it's out of your way and come onto your stomach. Now, if you feel like you're dangling here because you have some flesh in front, you can always nod your chin and bring your head to the ball, okay? Now go ahead, suction cup your hands to the ground and think of pulling them down. So it's a lat pull, you're dragging them down. You're going to push your hands and elbows into the ground, squeeze your glutes. Maybe your feet lift, maybe they don't. And then on your exhale, float your arms up. Yeah, and then come back down. So we're trying to bypass our erectors. So that is why we're pushing into the ground. So lengthen through your crown, push into the ground, squeeze your glutes, inhale, exhale, float. Let's do that again. Think about being shot out of a cannon, right? You're pulling yourself forward. So you're lengthening your arm, like pulling your arms back, lengthening your ears forward. You squeeze and then you float. We have one more. If we tend to have hyperlordotic postures, a lot of times our erectors do more than our multifidus. So we're trying to bypass those bad boys today. And hold. Good. Now bring your feet down, hands behind your head, head down. On your exhale, keep your collarbones wide, widen through your elbows, lift the elbows, and back down. And again. We're trying to find a little bit of mid-trapezius. We have 3, 2, 1. Bring your arms down to your sides. I like palms facing in. Now, if your shoulders are rolling forward, widen them, slide your fingertips down. Exhale, lift your hands only, and then back down. Exhale, lift the hands only. 3, 2, last one, hold. Now flip your palms down, take them to a T. Hands come down. So we're trying to find that mid trap again. On our exhale, lift the hands and back down. If this does not feel okay as you do this, come back to hands behind the head and just lift the elbows. We have 3. Shoulders draw down each time. We're trying to make sure we reset. Last one. Flip your palms to face each other, bring them overhead and bring them down. Now, press into the floor, draw your shoulder blades down, and you can look forward slightly. Yeah. Exhale, see about lifting your hand. And then other side. Now, as we do this, we're trying to find lower trap. So almost think about tucking your shoulder blade underneath, like a posterior tilt, and that's what lifts the hand. If as you do this, you're going up into your shoulder, instead, push down with the other side. Exhale, imagine lifting the hand. And then come back down, other side, press it down, imagine lifting it. Sometimes picturing it and imagining it in your body will actually help your nervous system find it easier because it sends the same signals. Good, slide your hands down in a little Sphinx position. Push into the floor. Lift your collarbones forward, a little bit of a passive back extension. We're coming into a child's pose. So however you need to do that is fine by me. Let your hands come up and over to one side. And then other side. We're coming to standing after this because of course it wouldn't be class without a little balance work. So come all the way up. And go ahead, bring your feet together. And bring your arms forward. And just close your eyes. And feel that gentle shift from side to side that happens, right? That's normal, that's supposed to happen. And then bring the arms down, open your eyes. Bring one foot in front of the other. Now, imagine you're on a tightrope, and maybe this is enough balance work for you, right? Maybe you're like, this is too easy. Today is not too easy for me, but that's okay. We're just gonna look over one shoulder. And then the other shoulder. Yeah, no. One of the great things is letting your feet and ankles move a little. You're allowing the proprioceptors in your joint capsule find where you are, okay? And if you fall out of it, you're practicing catching yourself, right? Which is also very, very valuable. Now, if this feels good and you'd like to up level it, lift your front foot so you're standing on one leg. And on your exhale, close your eyes. And just see how that feels. Maybe it's easier. Maybe you have to put your foot down. If you feel really unstable, let your fingers move or press your palms together. It's just a way to have your nervous system know that you're safe. And then we get to do the other side. Also, for funsies, if you feel really unstable in one area, take your hands, rub it on your neck, okay? Because you're stimulating the proprioceptors in that area as well. So And we just look over our shoulder, hi. And then other shoulder. If you accidentally make eye contact with somebody, smile at them. Be friendly. Couple more. And then if you want, you lift that foot. And then if you want, you can even close your eyes. Yeah. And of course, if you fall out of it, just like bring your foot down. That's great. Couple more breaths. Stimulating the proprioceptors in your neck. And 2. And 1. Bring your feet down, flip your palms to the sky, open your heart. And relax. Nice job today, you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause.